a woman as a helpmate. If we are not strong, it will not create us to help you. So please help to help. Oh my God, you are disturbing my head. Please help keep our women, and the women also should please be moderating units in homes, so that we can check our husbands when they bring in things that are not expected. We can check our children when they bring things that are not expected. I won't agree with my sister who brought about castration. I think we should water it down. Because a woman has milk of human kindness, and we will instead fast and pray that the instruments they are misusing, God will help them.
Okay. Thank you for that contribution. I hope you noticed it's a woman ringing the bell, not the man. So we didn't interrupt you, but thank you. Chief Mrs. Nkechi Mba.
Mr. Chairman, my fellow delegates, my name is Chief Mrs. Nkechi Mba, the National President, National Council of Women's Societies, Nigeria, which is the umbrella body of all women groups in this country. On behalf of Nigerian women, I want to commend Mr. President for convening this conference, and it's timely. They said behind every successful man, there's a woman. I will also thank the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because she made it possible to have the number of female representatives here in the hall. But most women here, representing from their different states and organizations, didn't know how this number came up. Mr. President stated it clear on page 14 that we must work ceaselessly to remain one nation bound in freedom, peace, and unity, like the national anthem says. So my fellow delegates, we are here so that we are aware of, we will be one person with peace, unity, there will be no development. So we should appreciate Mr. President by charging ourselves with the aim and achieving our formidable constitution that will give average Nigerian a true federalism and gender equality to enable our CEDAW bill passed. CEDAW bill is elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. And what comes under all forms of discrimination against women is violence against women, rape, issue of citizenship, 35% affirmative action, recognition of the First Lady's office. There is one thing I want to let Nigerians know about Mr. President. Respect and humility is not a weakness. And you know, they say prophets are not recognized in their hometown. Thank you all.
Thank you for that contribution. Thank you. Mr. Ledom Meti. Ledom Meti, please.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Ledom Mete. I am addendum to this conference. My intervention is basically to what others have referred to in page 7 of Mr. President's speech, where he talks about stakeholdership in the Nigerian project. But unlike the President, Mr. Chairman, who stated that he had no agenda here, I came here with an agenda. My agenda stems from my background and where I come from. I and the Ogoni people that where I come from have come to be the metaphor for injustice in this country. Today, We drink water that has been adjudged by the United Nations Environmental Program to be 1,000 times acceptable limits of pollution anywhere in the world. There are many other Ogonis, many that are in other parts of this country, who are also subjected to this bane of what I came here for. And I came here with that agenda, the agenda to align with other compatriots who want to ensure that we fight injustice in any corner of this country. Let me say, Mr. Chairman, that I believe that beneath the clash of arms that we see right from the Niger Delta to the farthest part of this country, in the northern part of this country, beneath all those clashes of arms, there's always, in my view, a shrill voice beneath it that initially cries for justice. And it is when it is ignored that it is morphed into the sort of problem that we see. And I think, therefore, that if we are going to move this country forward, we need to tackle that issue of injustice. And I want to say, with Mr. Chairman, that in 2008, I was chairman of the Niger Delta Technical Committee to look for ways of bringing about sustainable peace in the Niger Delta. We went to the travels of the creeks of the Niger Delta, Mr. Chairman. And on one occasion, I accosted some young men who were involved in vandalization of pipelines. And I said, gentlemen, why are you both doing this? One of them told me, 30 years ago, we asked for water, they say it's in the pipeline. We asked for good schools, they say it's in the pipeline. They say roads, they say in the pipeline. So we decided to open this pipeline so that we see these things that we are doing. Mr. Chairman, I do not know, but it is also possible that even the youths in other parts of this country that are breaking down churches and mosques might have exhausted their patience on waiting for promises from the prophets. My Lord, Mr. Chairman, I think many people here might also share my experience that perhaps I wouldn't have gone to school if I were born today. But the time I went to school, if you showed promise that you wanted to read, you had what they call scholarship. Today, there are many students that are like me who cannot go because the only way you can even have a fighting chance of getting a school cert is that you go to a private, expensive private school. And we delude ourselves that we are going to we send our children to these schools in order to give them the privilege. For each privileged child, there are some 16,000 unprivileged ones. And if the privileged ones think that they can survive, there will be more problem. You see many people who have been killed the other day just looking for jobs. Sometimes I see in this country, in all of us, that we need to exercise that Boko Haram in all of us. Because I've heard that Boko Haram means Western education is bad. What other preaching can you give to people that Western education is bad when the products of Western education do not see even interview to attend after years that they've gone to there? So by our actions, we tell people that it is not good to go to school. Many people now know that by being political thugs, they can make it. And I think these are the injustices that we need to fight. Mr. Chairman, I don't want to bore us in this place, but I want to say that, in my view, the first national anthem has its own prayer stanza. And it says that, O God of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us to build a nation where no one is oppressed. So, if we want to leave any legacy in this place, Mr. Chairman, let us take this as our abiding goal. Let us try to build a nation where no one is oppressed. Because if we do not do that, it seems to me that we will have, if the oppressed people are not able to speak or to sleep under the yoke of oppression, then the oppressor cannot sleep because the oppressed are awake. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miti. Dr. Clement Mgbada.
Mr. Chairman, fellow delegates, my name is Dr. Clement Mgbada, Southeast Delegate from Ebonyi State. I want to join other delegates in commending Mr. President for the opportunity offered by this conference, as well as his wonderful inaugural address. Mr. Chairman, my personal concern is with the levity and the recklessness with which we seem to have treated our national history. Because I have listened to delegates since we started making our comments here. Many people feel that there's nothing good that has happened in this country. Others feel Nigeria had had a very glorious past. But I think, Mr. President, Chairman, there is need for Nigerians to start being more conversant with their history. Nigeria, or boundary problems, have done a lot of harm in this country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Professor Oluwafemi Mimiko.
Distinguished Chair, distinguished delegates, I'm Femi Mimiko. I'm a professor of political science at the Oluwafemi University. I'm currently Vice Chancellor at Adekunle Ajayi University. I'm a delegate from Ondo State. I'd like to join my voice with those who spoke before me to commend Mr. President. I must say that that was a good speech, well written, and confidently delivered. I'd like to commend Mr. President on at least 3 grounds, and I talk about the exercise of courage in this instance. The fact that he was able to convoke this conference in spite of established opposition, I think deserves to be commended. I also noticed that the broadness of the platform that we have here is unprecedented in the annals of conferences in Nigeria. Mr. President deserves to be commended on that. That he also took on the critical issues in his speech, issues that ordinarily people will want to run away from, I also believe deserve some commendation. On page 5, Mr. President highlighted what for him will constitute the objectives of this conference. He spoke about the need to strengthen national unity, to consolidate democratic governance, to lay a more stronger foundation for faster development, and to build a more inclusive national consensus. He admonished us to look at the challenges confronting the nation and to work towards the creation of a more united, stronger, indivisible, and prosperous Nigeria. For me, Mr. Chair, I want to say that beautiful as these objectives are, they are objectives that cannot be accomplished given the present constitutional framework that we have in Nigeria. The Nigerian 1999 Constitution has just consummated unitarism with the military in place several years ago. And any attempt to run a plural, heterogeneous entity on the crutches of a unitary constitution will certainly not work. It does not matter how much time we spend, how much attempt we try to do to paper it over. Basically, the type of constitution that we have is not appropriate for a plural setting that we have in Nigeria. The second reason why this conference is key, Mr. Chair, is that there's so much lopsidedness in Nigeria that we have spoken of with different dimensions. We have a situation in which there's inequality, broadly speaking. I noticed those of my colleagues who spoke about class analysis. For me, when you try to graft class analysis on the realities of Nigeria, you stretch it thin. Why, for instance, does it seem that access to power cohere with region where you come from? Why is it that privileges cohere with parts of the country where you come from? Is it in the regime of import licensing? Is it in the allocation of local governments? Is it in the creation of states? Is it where everywhere you look at, there seems to be conjunction between where you come from and privileges. And these cannot make well for a good federal republic. My recommendation is that we must be courageous enough to ask the critical questions and provide the critical answers. I think it was the president of Harvard University that said a few years ago. He said 100 years ago, my university was voted the best in the world. This year, my university is also voted the best in the world. People should ask me why and how we did it. We must ask ourselves the question why we have where we are today in Nigeria. We must have a full-fledged federal republic. If we don't have that, we'll just be making these rounds without getting a result. Finally, Mr. President, on the issue of security, I have noticed that in this country, those of us that are lawful are at a disadvantage. Apart from the weapons that you have in the hands of security forces, the preponderance of weapons out there are in the hands of criminals and people that are lawless. I therefore am going to recommend and submit a motion at the nick of time that we should allow the right to bear and keep arms to be enshrined in our constitution. I believe it will further the essence of freedom and the essence of security. Once again, I thank you, distinguished delegates, for listening to me. God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Mimiko. Ambassador Isah Aliu Muhammed. Ambassador Isah Muhammad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ambassador Isah Aliu Muhammed. I am the sitting ambassador to Libya. Mr. Chairman, some of us who are representing you outside, especially those in the northern part of Africa, and therefore on the fringes of the Middle East, the Arab world, we have something to inform you. Because they say, isolated cultures stagnate. The graveyard of history is full of such stunted corpses. Mr. Chairman, do we realize that the Arab Spring was started by a young, unemployed grocer in Tunisia who was frustrated enough to put petrol on his body, and he got burnt out. And that was the beginning of the Arab Spring. Therefore, the young children we have today who have attended secondary, primary, and university institutions, and they are lingering about, they are jostling for just few jobs, which have been very, very difficult to come about, thanks to the Bretton Woods institutions who have made it possible for Nigeria to auction all the government and made it possibly impossible for anybody, not coming from certain families, not coming from certain privileged political class, to get a job and to get at least a meal a day. This is very serious, and I would like to advise that the government should take appropriate steps to look after our young ones so that our mothers can go to sleep with all eyes closed. Secondly, Mr. Chairman, I am also to inform this House that I was a one-time national chairman of the United Nigeria Congress Party. Let me say that if the superstructure is wrong, there is no way the infrastructure will be right. Let me start with the political arrangement. In this country, we had a situation where Shagari used to meet Akiloe and say, "My chairman, sir." And Akiloe would reply, "My president, sir." Today, the chairman, the party organization is very much different. A mother borns a child, wins him, brings him up. She stands for him, signs for him to go and become president or governor. And when he becomes a president or governor, he becomes the father of that mother. So there is nobody will put anybody to order. Today, the parties we have in place are worse than the so-called 5 leprous fingers of the same hand. They are also worse than the 2 parties created by General Babangida, which were generally referred to as parastatals. No party man here, I am a party man. Nobody has ever asked me to contribute a dime towards the running of a party. Therefore, everybody is reliant on the government resources for the parties to operate. Therefore, the person who pays the piper dictates the tune. Anybody who is going either for Senate, House of Representatives, becoming a governor or whatever, he must be in the good books of the powers that be. I stop here.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you.